The distress signal traveled through the void for 3 weeks before it reached the Sol system. Ambassador Thelver had sent it with little hope. His people, the Kalani, were dying. The entire galactic coalition was dying. The Vryn swarm consumed everything in its path, turning living worlds into lifeless husks within days. Thelver stood on the bridge of the coalition flagship, watching the tactical display with tired eyes. Red markers showed Vryn positions. They outnumbered coalition forces 10-1. Hundreds of worlds had fallen. Billions were dead. The Coalition Council had exhausted every option. Every ally had contributed what ships they could spare. It was not enough. It would never be enough, Ambassador. We received a response from the human system, his communications officer said. Thelver felt a flicker of hope. The humans were new to faster-than-light travel. They had only achieved it 5 years ago. First contact protocols suggested they might send a small delegation, perhaps 20 or 30 ships to show goodwill. Every vessel mattered now. What do they say? Thelver asked. They acknowledge our distress. They say they are preparing a response fleet. The officer paused. Ambassador, their message is strange. They ask for coordinates to stage a full military deployment. Thelver's hope dimmed. Full military deployment. The humans probably thought 30 ships was their full military. He had seen their early vessels. Primitive fusion drives. Simple weapon systems. They would try to help, and they would die for it. But he could not refuse any aid, no matter how small. Send them our rally point coordinates, Thelver ordered. Tell them we are grateful for any assistance. 3 days later, alarms blared across every coalition ship at the rally point. Sensors detected incoming vessels. Many vessels. The displays lit up with contact markers. 20 ships appeared. Then 50. Then 100. The numbers kept climbing. Possible, the sensor operator whispered. 200 contacts. 300. 500. Thelver stared at the display. His 4 hearts hammered in his chest. The numbers stopped at 847 vessels. An entire armada had just exited faster than light travel in perfect formation. The precision alone was remarkable. Most species struggled to coordinate even 50 ships arriving together. Scan those ships, Thelver commanded. I need to know what we are dealing with. The scans came back, and Thelver felt his blood run cold. These were not exploration vessels. These were not transport ships converted for combat. Every single human ship was purpose-built for war. Their hulls were thick, armored plates designed to absorb damage. Their weapon systems covered every angle. He saw missile batteries, railguns, energy weapons, and systems he could not identify. Ambassador, the largest human vessel, is hailing us. They request permission to dock and brief you on their battle plan. Battle plan. Not defense strategy. Not evacuation coordination. Battle plan. Thelver swallowed hard and gave permission. Captain Deho walked into the Coalition conference room like a man who owned it. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and scars on his hands. Behind him came Admiral Hai-Jin, an older woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. They were followed by a younger man carrying data tablets and a woman in a white uniform with a medical insignia. Ambassador Thelver Deho said, extending his hand in the human greeting. Thank you for the briefing materials. We have analyzed the Vryn threat and prepared our response. Captain, we are grateful for your assistance, Thelver said carefully. However, you must understand the scale of this enemy. The Vryn number in the millions. They have consumed 43 worlds. Their ships are grown from organic matter, constantly regenerating. We have been fighting them for 2 years, and we are losing. Admiral Hai-Jin stepped forward. We understand. We have reviewed all combat data you provided. The Vryn use swarm tactics, overwhelming defenders through numbers. Their vessels are lightly armed individually but deadly in groups. They avoid prolonged engagements, preferring to absorb losses and push forward. She paused. We have fought similar enemies on Earth. Similar enemies? Thelver asked. Locusts, the young man said. His name was Minho, the ship's chief engineer. Insects that swarm in the billions, consuming crops. Also certain ant species. Also humans. In our darker periods. We know how to fight swarms, Ambassador. Thelver felt a chill. The casual way Minho mentioned humans, swarming like insects, spoke to a violent history. Deho activated a holographic display. We will divide our fleet into 3 groups. The first group, 300 ships, will engage the Vryn forward positions here. He pointed to a system near the front lines. This is a feint. We will make them think we are committing our full force. Feint with 300 ships. Thelver could not believe what he was hearing. Captain, that is more vessels than most coalition members possess in total.
Now the second group.
200 ships will perform a flanking maneuver through this nebula, Haijin continued. Ignoring his shock, the Vryn will detect them and split their forces to respond. This is when the third group strikes. The remaining 347 ships will perform a deep penetration strike on their primary hive clusters. Deho finished. We destroy their ability to reproduce, and we cut off their supply lines. The swarm will collapse. Thelver looked at the battle plan. It was aggressive. It was dangerous. It assumed acceptable losses that would horrify most coalition species. But it could work. It might actually work. Captain, your people are newly contacted. You owe us nothing. Why are you committing your entire military to our war? Deho met his eyes. Because you asked for help. Because innocent beings are dying. Because we can fight, so we will fight. It is what humans do. The woman in the white uniform, Dr. Yunji, spoke for the first time. Ambassador, there is something you should understand about humans. We come from a world we call Earth. The gravity is stronger than most inhabited worlds. The atmosphere is highly reactive. The native life evolved to compete, to fight, to survive. Humans are not warriors despite our world. We are warriors because of our world. Thelver nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand. The galaxy had standards for warfare, rules developed over thousands of years of civilization. The humans had not learned those rules yet. They fought like their world had taught them to fight, without mercy, without restraint, with everything they had. When do we begin? Thelver asked. The fleet is ready now, Deho said. We can attack within 6 hours. The coalition would have needed weeks to coordinate such an operation. Thelva realized the humans had planned this entire campaign during their 3-day journey to the rally point. They had not come to negotiate. They had not come to assess. They had come to win. Then let us not waste time, Thelver said. The Vryn will not expect this. Admiral Haijin smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. No, they will not. Nothing in this galaxy expects humans, Ambassador. That is our advantage. The conference ended, and the human officers returned to their ships. Thelver watched the human fleet begin its approach, burn toward Vryn space. 847 warships, moving with deadly purpose. He had asked for aid. He had expected a token gesture, a show of solidarity. Instead, he had received an army. The human fleet moved through space like a predator stalking prey. Thelver had assigned 3 coalition observers to the human flagship. They sent reports every hour, and each report made the coalition council more uncomfortable. They are reviewing weapon systems, the first report read. Systems that violate 17 different warfare conventions. When we mentioned this, Captain Deho asked which conventions. When we explained, he said, Earth never signed those conventions. Thelver read the reports in his private quarters. The next one was worse. The humans have weapons that burn everything within a kilometer. They have missiles that continue hunting targets even after the launching ship is destroyed. They have something called kinetic kill vehicles that are simply heavy metal rods dropped from orbit at extreme speeds. Engineer Minho called them planet crackers. He was joking. I think he was joking. The third report arrived as the fleet reached the contested zone, 3 light years from Coalition space. This area had changed hands 4 times in the past year. Neither side could hold it. Ships from both sides drifted here, destroyed hulks marking old battle sites. Admiral Haijin showed us their contingency plans. Contingency 7 involves crashing a ship traveling at near light speed into a planet. She called it a last resort. I asked what the first resort was. She said fighting until they win or die. There is no surrender in their doctrine. There is no retreat. I am beginning to fear what we have brought into this war. Thelver did not share that fear with the Council. Not yet. The Coalition needed the humans. He could worry about the implications later. The first engagement came without warning. Vryn scout ships detected the human fleet and moved to attack. 50 Vryn vessels against the human vanguard of 30 ships. By Coalition doctrine, the humans should have fallen back, called for support, established a defensive perimeter instead. They attacked. Commander Guan led the vanguard from a ship called Relentless. She had been a Marine before commanding warships, and she fought like one. Her vessel accelerated directly toward the Vryn formation, weapons firing continuously. The other human ships followed her lead, spreading out to create crossing fields of fire. Thelver watched from the main fleet. He had never seen anything like it. The humans fought at ranges Coalition captains would consider suicidally close. They used their ship's superior acceleration to dart between Vryn vessels. Firing from positions that left them exposed to return fire, they did not seem to care. Relentless has taken damage, the tactical officer reported. Hull breach on decks 4 and 5. They are not pulling back. Human fighters are launching, another officer said. 72 small craft. They are engaging at extreme close range. Thelver enlarged the display to watch the fighter combat. The lead human fighter, piloted by someone named Sang-un, flew straight through the Vryn formation. His weapons tore apart 3 enemy ships before they could react. The other fighters followed, moving in patterns that seemed chaotic but were perfectly coordinated. One human fighter took catastrophic damage. Instead of ejecting or attempting to escape, the pilot turned his crippled craft directly toward a Vryn ship and rammed it at full speed. Both vessels exploded. Did that pilot just Thelver could not finish the sentence? Dr. Yunji was on the bridge as an observer. She answered quietly. Yes, Ambassador. Ramming attacks are considered acceptable tactics when no other option remains. The pilot made that choice. That is insane, Thelver said. That violates every principle of warfare. Vessels are expensive. Trained pilots are irreplaceable. No commander should allow such waste. The pilot's name was Corporal Minsu, Yunji said, checking her tablet. He was 22 years old. He saved his wingmate with that action. By human military standards, that is not waste. That is duty. The engagement lasted 18 minutes. All 50 Vryn ships were destroyed. The humans lost 3 vessels and damaged 9 others. By Coalition standards, this was an acceptable exchange. By human standards, it was a light skirmish. Deho called a meeting with Coalition observers after the battle. Thelver attended via hologram. The captain looked tired, but satisfied. The Vryn fight exactly as your report suggested, Deho said. They rely on numbers and regeneration. Their hulls heal between engagements. They avoid sustained combat. He paused. That gives us an advantage. They have never fought an enemy willing to stay in close and keep firing until nothing remains. Captain, your tactics are effective, but brutal, Thelver said carefully. Your casualties would be unacceptable to most Coalition species. 3 ships from 30 engaged, Deho replied. 10% losses. That is lighter than we expected. 10% losses? In one engagement? And the humans considered that light. Thelver tried to imagine a Coalition fleet commander accepting such numbers. It was impossible. Coalition doctrine called for withdrawal if losses exceeded 3%. There is something else you should see, Admiral Haijin said. She brought up footage from the boarding action. A Vryn vessel had been disabled, but not destroyed. Commander Giwan had taken a team aboard. The footage showed human Marines moving through the Vryn ship's organic corridors. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons Thelver had never seen. Flamethrowers that filled passages with burning gel. Rotating blade weapons that cut through Vryn drones like they were nothing. Explosive charges that turned corners into death traps. This is barbaric, Thelver whispered. This is effective, Jiwan said. She was in the meeting room, still wearing her combat armor. The Vryn are organic. Fire kills organic matter very efficiently. The chainsaws cut through their carapace armor. The explosives destroy their nerve clusters. We adapted these weapons from fighting similar creatures on Earth. What creatures require such weapons? Thelver asked. G1 shrugged. Bears. Large insects in tropical regions. Sometimes other humans. Ambassador, you need to understand something. Humanity has been at war for its entire existence. We fought animals for food. We fought weather for survival. We fought diseases that killed millions. We fought each other for resources, territory, beliefs. We have been fighting for 200,000 years. This is what we know how to do. Engineer Minho entered the room, carrying a small device. Ambassador, I wanted to show you something. This is a standard mining charge. We use it to break apart asteroids for resource extraction. He activated a hologram showing the device's specifications. Thelver looked at the numbers and felt sick. The explosive yield was enormous. The radiation signature was distinctive. This is a weapon of mass destruction. You use these for mining? It is very efficient for large-scale excavation, Minho said cheerfully. Of course, it could also crack open a planet's crust if deployed correctly. But we would never do that to an inhabited world. That would be wrong. The casual tone made it worse. The humans had weapons that could destroy worlds, and they used them to dig mines. What kind of species needed that much destructive power for civilian applications? How many of these do you have? Thelver asked. In the fleet? About 4,000, Minho said. Standard supply for any long-range operation. You never know when you will need to mine resources. 4,000 planet-cracking weapons. Standard supply. Thelver made a note to recommend the Council never anger the humans. The meeting ended with a strategic briefing. Admiral Hajin laid out the next phase of operations. The humans would push deeper into Vryn territory, forcing engagements and destroying hive ships. The plan was aggressive and risky. It assumed the humans could sustain heavy losses and continue fighting. After the briefing, Dr. Yunji approached Thelver's hologram. Ambassador, I know this is difficult to watch. Humans fight in ways that shock peaceful species, but please understand, we are not monsters. We simply come from a world that taught us very harsh lessons. What lessons? Thelver asked. That survival requires strength. That mercy is a luxury earned through power. That the universe does not care about fairness or rules. Yonji looked sad. We did not want to be this way. Earth made us this way, but now that we are among the stars, we can choose who to aim that strength toward. We choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Is that not worth something? Thelver considered her words. The humans were terrifying. Their weapons were horrible. Their tactics were brutal. But they were here. They were fighting. They were dying for people they had just met. It is worth everything, Dr. Thelver said quietly. I only hope the cure is not worse than the disease. Yunji smiled sadly. So do we, Ambassador. So do we. The Battle of Kepler's Gate would become legend. It was the last defensive position before the Vryn reached Coalition core worlds. Lose here, and 30 billion civilians would die within weeks. The Coalition fleet gathered every available ship. 2,000 vessels formed a defensive line around the star system's jump points. Then the Vryn arrived. 200,000 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel in waves. The sensors could barely count them all. They filled space like a living cloud, blotting out the stars. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, the Coalition fleet commander ordered. Establish defensive spheres. Prepare for siege tactics. This was standard doctrine. Pull back. Create overlapping fields of fire. Make the enemy come to you. It conserved ammunition and reduced casualties. It was the sensible thing to do. The human fleet did not fall back. Indomitable to all Coalition forces, Admiral Hajin broadcast on open channels, Human fleet is advancing to engage. We recommend you support this action. If you cannot, stay clear of our firing solutions. The human fleet, all 847 ships, accelerated directly toward the Vryn swarm. They were outnumbered 200 to 1. It was suicide. Thelver watched from the Coalition command ship in the rear. They are going to die. All of them. For nothing, me not, his tactical officer said. Look at their formation. The human ships were not charging blindly. They moved in a complex pattern, 3 groups interweaving. As they approached the Vryn line, they split. One group went high, one group went low. The center group kept pushing forward, firing everything they had. The Vryn swarm tried to surround them. This was their standard tactic: envelop the enemy and crush them from all sides. But the human ships were faster than Vryn vessels. They used the gravity of Kepler's star to slingshot around, building impossible speeds. They are using the star itself as a weapon, the tactical officer whispered in awe. One human destroyer, badly damaged, dove directly into the star's corona. The superheated plasma should have destroyed it instantly. Instead, it emerged on the other side, trailing fire, and slammed into a cluster of Vryn ships. The explosion took out 50 enemy vessels. They flew through a star, Thelver said. How is that possible? Dr. Yunji was monitoring from her station. Human ships are built for Earth's environment. Our star is more energetic than most system stars. Our magnetic fields are stronger. Our radiation levels are higher. We build ships that can handle it. To us, that maneuver is dangerous but survivable. To most Coalition ships, it would be instant death. The battle continued. Human fighters, piloted by aces like Sang Yun, darted through the Vryn formations. They moved in 3 dimensions, using every axis of movement. Most species fought in 2 dimensions, thinking in terms of up and down, left and right. Humans added forward and back, creating attack runs that came from impossible angles. A call came in from Commander Guan. Her ship was leading a boarding action against a Vryn hive ship. These massive vessels were the Vryn equivalent of carriers, growing new ships from organic matter. Destroying them would cripple the swarm's ability to replace losses. Boarding team is inside, Juan reported. Encountering heavy resistance. Proceeding to core. Thelver accessed the video feed from Jiwan's helmet camera. What he saw would give him nightmares for years. The interior of the Vryn hive ship was a nightmare of organic material. Walls pulsed with blood vessels. The air was thick with spores. Vryn drones dropped from the ceiling, razor-sharp limbs gleaming in the dim light. Giwan and her marines moved through it like death itself. They had abandoned their standard weapons for older, cruder tools. Flamethrowers filled passages with fire. The chainsaws that Thelver had seen before cut through Vryn warriors. One marine carried something called a grenade launcher that fired explosive rounds into clusters of enemies. Why use such primitive weapons? Thelver asked. Because they work, Yanji explained. Vryn ships are organic. Energy weapons cauterize wounds, which helps them heal. Explosives scatter biological matter. Fire destroys it completely. Humans learned thousands of years ago that the simplest solution is often the best solution. The boarding team reached the hive ship's core. It was a massive chamber filled with egg sacs and nutrient pools. New Vryn ships were growing here, dozens of them in various stages of development. One ordered. 30-second fuses. Everyone out. The Marines placed explosive devices throughout the chamber and retreated. They moved quickly, professionally, covering each other. 2 Marines stayed behind to hold off pursuing Vryn drones. They did not retreat with the others. Sergeant Borum, Corporal Hewan, fall back, Jiwan ordered. Negative, Borum replied. His voice was calm. Drones have collapsed the passage. We cannot reach the extraction point in time. We will hold here and detonate charges manually if the timer fails. Guan stopped running. For a moment, she stood still. Then she continued toward the exit. Understood, Sergeant? It has been an honor. The honor is ours, Commander, Borum said. Give them hell. The charges detonated 18 seconds later. The hive ship tore itself apart from the inside. Giwan and 8 Marines made it to their shuttle. Borum and Huan did not. Thelver could not speak. 2 humans had just sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They had known they would die and stayed anyway. What kind of species trained their soldiers to do that? The battle raged for 6 hours. It was the longest sustained combat engagement the Coalition had seen in this war. Humans did not fall back to recharge weapons or repair damage. They rotated damaged ships out of the line and fresh ships in. They maintained constant pressure on the Vryn swarm. Then something unexpected happened. A human scientist named Ji-hoon broadcast a signal to the Coalition fleet. We have developed a biological weapon targeting Vryn genetic markers. Deploying now, a biological weapon. Thelver was horrified. Those are forbidden. The suffering they cause is the Vryn are not suffering, Yanji interrupted. They are drones controlled by hive minds. They do not feel pain as we understand it. Dr. Ji-hoon designed a virus that disrupts their neural connections. It is efficient and humane, given the circumstances. Humane. The humans were calling genocide humane. But as Thelver watched, the Vryn swarm began to falter. Ships stopped coordinating. Attacks became disorganized. The virus was spreading through their biological networks, severing their connection to the hive minds. All human ships advance, Admiral Haijin ordered. Destroy them while they are disoriented. Do not let them regroup. The human fleet surged forward. They had been fighting for 6 hours straight. Their ships were damaged. Their crews were exhausted, but they attacked like they were fresh and untouched. When the battle ended, 70,000 Vryn ships were destroyed. The remaining swarms scattered, breaking off the attack. The Coalition had held Kepler's Gate. The core worlds were safe. The cost was horrifying. 89 human ships were destroyed. Thousands of human soldiers were dead. The Coalition had lost 300 ships, which was terrible. But the humans had lost proportionally more. Thelver called Captain Deho after the battle. The human looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. Captain, your casualties are severe. I am sorry. No one should have to pay such a price. Deho nodded slowly. War is expensive, Ambassador. It costs lives. It costs ships. It costs parts of your soul you cannot get back. But the alternative was letting the Vryn reach your homeworlds. We could not allow that. Why? Thelver asked. Why would you sacrifice so much for people you barely know? Deho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, there is a word in one of Earth's old languages. It is called humanity. It means the quality of being human. But it also means compassion, kindness, and benevolence. That is what we are supposed to be. Not weapons. Not monsters. Humans. And humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. Thelver felt something break inside him. These terrifying, violent, brutal humans were also the most compassionate beings he had ever met. They brought death to their enemies and hope to their allies. They were contradictions made flesh. Thank you, Thelver said quietly, for everything you have done. For everything you have lost. The war is not over yet, Ambassador Deho replied. The Vryn are wounded, but not defeated. We need to find their queen mind and end this permanently. We have been searching for their homeworld for 2 years, Thelver said. Our intelligence networks have found nothing. Deho smiled. It was a tired smile, but it held determination. Then it is fortunate that humans are very good at finding things that do not want to be found. Give us a week, Ambassador. We will find your queen mind. The call ended. Thelver sat in the darkness of his quarters and wondered what he had unleashed upon the galaxy. The humans were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. They were also the most necessary. He could only hope the universe was ready for them. The intelligence team found the Queen World in 5 days. It was hidden in a dead nebula, surrounded by radiation that scrambled sensors. Most species would never have looked there. Humans had learned to look everywhere, especially places that seemed impossible. Admiral Haijin called a meeting of all ship commanders. The briefing room was crowded with captains and tactical officers. Thelver attended via hologram, one of only 3 Coalition observers allowed into the planning session. The Queen World is here, Haijin said, pointing to a star map. It is defended by everything the Vryn have left. We estimate 300,000 ships in the system. Every hive mind, every queen, every drone that matters is there. Captain Deho stood beside her. We are taking 3,000 ships on this mission. The rest of the fleet will remain at Kepler's Gate in case we fail. If we do not return, they will continue the war. 3,000 ships against 300,000. The math was simple and brutal. They would lose. Everyone in the room knew it. We are calling for volunteers only, Hyjin continued. This is a one-way mission. Our goal is to destroy the Queen World, which will collapse the Vryn swarm across all territories. But the defenses are too strong. Most of us will not survive. The room was silent. Thelver waited for someone to object, to point out the insanity of the plan. No one did. I volunteered, Commander Jiwan said. Her voice was steady. I volunteer, said a captain named Sunji. She commanded a stealth destroyer called Silent Knife. I volunteer, said Pilot Sangun. He had been shot down twice and returned to duty both times. One by one, every human in the room volunteered. They knew they were volunteering to die. They did it anyway. Thelver found his voice. This is madness. You cannot ask people to sacrifice themselves like this. Captain Deho turned to face the hologram. I am not asking, Ambassador. They are volunteering. There is a difference. These men and women understand what we are attempting. They understand the cost. They choose to pay it. But why? Thelver could not comprehend it. Your species has just reached the stars. You have so much to live for. Why throw your lives away for strangers? A young officer named Youngmi spoke up. She was a medical officer, responsible for treating wounded. Ambassador, I have treated 347 wounded humans in the past 2 weeks. I have held the hands of dying soldiers. Every single one asked me the same thing. Not if they would live. Not if it hurt. They asked if their sacrifice mattered. If they saved anyone, that is what humans care about. Not living, mattering. The fleet prepared for 3 days. Thelver watched as humans wrote letters to families they might never see again. They recorded video messages for children who would grow up without parents. They packed personal belongings to be sent home. Their bodies could not be recovered. He watched a pilot named Sang Yoon record a message to his mother. Mom, if you are seeing this, it means I did not come home. I am sorry. I know you wanted me to be a teacher like Dad, but this was important. The Vryn were killing innocent people. We had to stop them. Please do not be angry. Please be proud. Tell everyone I made ace. Tell them I mattered. Sang-yoon was 24 years old. He would likely die in the next week. Thelver also watched as tactical officer Dong-yoon coordinated the impossible. The attack would hit 15 Virant systems simultaneously, drawing defenders away from the Queen World. It required perfect timing across light years of space. One mistake, and the plan would collapse.
Oh.
Can you be so precise? Thelver asked. Dong-yoon looked up from his calculations. Humans landed on our moon in 1969, over 300 years ago. We have been practicing precision for a very long time, Ambassador. This is just another landing, except instead of flags, we are planting bombs. The strike fleet departed on the 4th day. 3,000 human warships entered the Dead Nebula. The radiation was intense, interfering with communications and sensors. Ships had to navigate using backup systems and manual calculations. It was slow, dangerous work. Captain Sunji led the Vanguard and her destroyer Silent Knife. Her ship was built for stealth, carrying minimal weapons but maximum sensors. She would find the path through the defenses. Contact Sunji reported 2 hours into the approach. Vryn defense platforms detected. Marking positions. Recommend approach vector Alpha 7. The fleet adjusted course. They moved like ghosts through the radiation, avoiding Vryn sensors when possible and destroying platforms when necessary. Every destroyed platform risked alerting the main defense fleet. Every minute counted. They made it halfway to the Queen World before the Vryn noticed them. Alarms rippled through the Hive network. Defense fleets mobilized. 300,000 ships began moving toward the human position. All ships battle speed, Admiral Hajin ordered. We are not sneaking anymore. Burn straight for the target. Fighter squadrons, launch and clear the path. Sang-yoon led his squadron away from the carrier. 24 fighters against an enemy beyond counting. His hands were steady on the controls. His voice was calm on the radio. Reaper Squadron, form up. We have drones at 2 o'clock. Break and attack. The fighters dove into combat. Sang-yoon's weapons tore through Vrin drone ships. His flying was perfect, every maneuver calculated to maximum efficiency. He was an artist painting with fire and death. A drone clipped his wing. Alarms blared. His fighter was losing atmosphere. He could turn back, try to reach the carrier, or he could keep fighting. Reaper 2, I am hit, Sang-yoon said. Continuing engagement. Do not break formation for me. Reaper 1, you need to return, his wingmate protested. Target-rich environment. I can do more good here. Sang-yoon's fighter screamed through a cloud of Vrin ships. His missiles found targets. His guns never stopped firing. The main fleet pushed forward. Human ships formed a wedge, concentrating their firepower on breakthrough points. Vrin vessels tried to surround them. Human ships exploded, taking dozens of enemies with them. The running battle lit up the dead nebula with fire. Captain Seung-hee's silent knife reached the inner defense zone. This was the final barrier before the Queen World. Massive Vrin battleships guarded the approaches. Her small destroyer could not fight them, but she could distract them. All ships, I am drawing fire, Sunjae reported. Her voice was calm. Continue to target. Do not stop for me. Silent knife accelerated toward the battleships. Every weapon on those massive vessels turned toward her. She dodged, weaved, bought precious seconds. Her ship took hit after hit. Armor melted. Systems failed. She kept flying. Seung-ji, fall back, Daeho ordered. Negative, Captain. Almost in position, Seung-hee's ship was dying around her, but she had reached her goal. The silent knife was between the battleships and the advancing human fleet. Detonating reactor. Tell my family I love them. The silent knife exploded with the force of a small sun. The blast crippled 3 Vrin battleships and damaged 5 more. The human fleet poured through the gap. Only 1,200 human ships remained. They had lost more than half the strike fleet. The Queen World was ahead, a massive organic sphere covered in pulsing veins and defensive weapons. This was the heart of the Vrin swarm. Destroy it, and the war ended. Bomber wings. You are cleared for final approach, Admiral Haijin said. All other ships cover them. This is why we came. Sang-yoon's damaged fighter was one of the escorts. His life support was failing. His weapons were nearly empty, but he could still fly. He fell in beside the bomber carrying Dr. Jahoon's biological weapon. This bomb was designed specifically to kill the Queen Mind. It had to reach the target. Vrin defenders swarmed the bombers. Human fighters fought desperately to protect them. Ships exploded on both sides. The bomber took a hit. Then another. It was failing. Bomber 1 is critical, the pilot reported. I cannot make the final run. The weapon is undamaged. Need another delivery method? Sang-yoon looked at his fuel gauge. At his damaged systems, at the Queen World ahead, he made a decision that thousands of humans had made in this war. The decision to matter. Reaper 1 to Bomber 1. Transfer the weapon to my fighter. I can make the run. Your ship is too damaged, the bomber pilot said. You will not survive the approach. I know, Sang-yoon said quietly. Transfer the weapon. That is an order. The bomber pilot did not argue. The weapon transferred to Sang-yoon's fighter in 30 seconds. It was heavy, throwing off his ship's balance. But he could fly anything. His father had taught him that. All ships, this is Reaper 1. Beginning final approach. Do not follow. Repeat, do not follow. Sang-yoon pushed his fighter to maximum acceleration. Vrin, fire filled space around him. His shields failed. His armor burned away. A round punched through his cockpit. He felt his leg break. Blood filled his helmet. He kept flying. The Queen World grew large in his canopy. He could see the pulsing surface, the defensive weapons turning toward him. He was one small fighter against a world. It was enough. Tell my mom I made ace, Sang-yoon said. His voice was fading. Tell her it mattered. He released the weapon directly into the Queen World's surface and followed it down. The last thing he saw was fire. The Queen World died in silence. There was no explosion, no dramatic collapse. The biological weapon spread through its nervous system like poison through veins. Within minutes, the massive sphere stopped pulsing. The lights in its surface dimmed. It simply ceased to exist as a living thing. Across 3 sectors of space, the Vrin swarm stopped moving. Ships drifted without purpose. Drones shut down mid-attack. The hive mind that had connected them all was dead. The war ended not with a bang, but with sudden, absolute silence. Of the 3,000 human ships that entered the dead nebula, 92 returned. Admiral Hygen was not among them. Her flagship had taken critical damage covering the retreat. She stayed behind to buy time for others to escape. Captain Deho commanded the survivors home. Thelver waited at the rally point with the remaining Coalition fleet. When the humans emerged from faster-than-light travel, he counted their numbers and felt his heart break. So few. So terribly few. "We won," Deho reported. His voice was empty. "The Queen World is destroyed. The Vrin swarm is collapsing. Coalition territories are safe." "At what cost?" Thelver whispered. 47,000 human lives, Deho said. Admiral Hyjin, Captain Sunji, Pilot Sanyun, and thousands of others. They gave everything. It was enough. The Coalition Council declared a day of mourning. Every species in the Coalition lowered their flags. It was unprecedented. They mourned not their own dead, but the humans who had died protecting them. Thelver stood before the Coalition Council 6 months later. The war was over. Vrin remnants had been hunted down or absorbed by Coalition forces. The threat was ended. Now came the difficult questions. "The humans are too dangerous," Counselor Vrek said. She was a Thalian, a species known for pacifism. "We have seen their weapons, their willingness to use force, their disregard for conventional warfare. What happens when they turn those weapons on us?" "They will not," Thelver said firmly. "I have spent 6 months among humans. I have seen their violence, yes, but I have also seen their compassion. They are not conquerors. They are protectors. Can we trust that?" Another counselor asked. "Can we trust beings who build planet-cracking weapons for mining? Who train their soldiers to sacrifice themselves without hesitation? Who fight wars we consider too brutal to contemplate?" "We must," Thelver said, "because the alternative is facing the next threat without them. And there will be another threat. The universe is vast and hostile. We need humans. More importantly, they have proven we can trust them. They came when we called. They fought when we needed them. They died for us." The vote was close, but humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Coalition. There were conditions. Human military forces would remain independent. Human weapons would not be shared with other species without approval. Human tactics would only be employed in extreme circumstances. The humans agreed to everything. They had not fought this war for power or territory. They fought because it was necessary. Because it was right, Captain Deho was offered the position of Coalition military advisor. He accepted, though he insisted on keeping his rank. "I am a captain," he said. "I serve. I do not rule." Dr. Yunji established the first permanent human embassy on the Coalition homeworld. She spent her days teaching other species about human culture, trying to help them understand the species that had saved them, engineer. Minho began training Coalition engineers in what he called practical warfare. Many species were horrified by his lessons. Some were fascinated. All recognized that ignoring human knowledge would leave them vulnerable. Commander Guan trained the Coalition's first rapid response force. Volunteers only, species who could handle human tactics. She was a demanding instructor. She accepted nothing less than perfection. Her students respected her for it. Medical Officer Youngmi opened a trauma center for Coalition soldiers. She taught them human medical techniques, many of which seemed brutal but were effective. She also provided psychological support. Many Coalition soldiers struggled with what they had seen in the war. Youngmi understood. She had seen it too. Tactical Officer Dong Yun became head of Coalition Strategic Defense. He built new sensor networks, established early warning systems, and trained strategists in human methods. The Coalition would not be caught unprepared again. The memorial wall on Earth stretched for 3 kilometers. 47,000 names carved in black stone. Thelver attended the dedication ceremony. He walked slowly along the wall, reading names. Each one represented a life lost, a family destroyed, a future erased. He stopped at one name, Sang Yoon, age 24, pilot, the inscription beneath. His name read, "Tell my mom I made ace." He did make ace, a voice said beside him. An older human woman stood there, her eyes red from crying. He shot down 5 enemy ships in his last battle. Technically, ramming the Queen World counts as his 6th kill. "My son died in ace." "I am so sorry," Thelver said. The words felt inadequate. "Do not be sorry," Sang-Yoon's mother said. "Be grateful. Be worthy of his sacrifice. That is what he would want." She walked away, leaving Thelver alone with the names of the dead. He stood there for hours, reading, remembering, understanding. Humans were dangerous. They were violent. They came from a world that had forged them into weapons. But they were also compassionate. They were also kind. They chose who to aim their violence toward. They chose to protect instead of conquer. 3 years after the war, a new distress signal reached Coalition space. A species on the frontier was under attack by raiders. The Coalition Council debated the response. Some argued for diplomatic solutions. Others suggested economic pressure. Admiral Daeho sat in the council chambers, listening. When they asked his opinion, he stood. "This council exists because humans came when you called for help," he said quietly. "We lost 47,000 people saving you. That number should mean something. It should mean we do not debate while innocent people die. It should mean we act." "What are you suggesting?" Counselor Vrex asked. "It's in the fleet," Daeho said. "Send a clear message. The Coalition protects its members and its neighbors. Anyone who threatens peaceful beings will face consequences." "That sounds like a threat," Vrex said. "It is a promise," Daeho replied. "We have the power to protect others. We have the responsibility to use it. That is what the 47,000 died for. Not territory. Not glory. The promise that no one would face extinction alone again." The vote was unanimous. A Coalition fleet, including human warships, departed within days. The raiders fled before shots were fired. The threatened species was saved without casualties. This became the pattern. The Coalition, led by human advisors, became more proactive. They did not wait for threats to become disasters. They acted early, decisively, and when necessary, with force. Other species noticed. Some called the Coalition aggressive. Others called them protectors. 15 species applied for membership in the first year after the Vryn War. 20 more the year after. The Coalition grew, and humanity sat at its heart. Not as conquerors. Not as rulers. As Guardians, Thelver retired from active service 5 years after the war. He spent his retirement writing a history of the Vryn conflict. The book became required reading in Coalition military academies. The final chapter was titled, "What We Learned." In it, Thelver wrote, "We learned that humanity is not one thing. They are not simply warriors or peacekeepers. They are both. They are contradictions made flesh. They build weapons that can crack planets and use them to mine asteroids. They train soldiers to die willingly and grieve every loss. They come from a world that tried to kill them for 200,000 years, and they responded by reaching for the stars. Most importantly, we learned that humanity's greatest strength is not their weapons or their tactics or their willingness to sacrifice. Their greatest strength is their choice. They chose to help us. They chose to fight for strangers. They chose to be protectors instead of conquerors. That choice cost them 47,000 lives. We must ensure that sacrifice was not in vain. The universe is vast and hostile. Threats will come again, but now we face them together, humans and coalition species side by side. And any enemy that threatens peaceful beings will learn what the Vryn learned. They expected aid. They expected mercy. They expected compassion. Did not expect a Deathworlder fleet. 10 years after the war, a new distress signal reached Coalition space. It came from the edge of known space, from a species humanity had never met. They were under attack. They were dying. They called for help. Captain Deho, now an admiral, stood on the bridge of a Coalition flagship. His hair was gray. His face was lined, but his eyes were sharp. "How many ships can we deploy?" he asked. 800, his tactical officer replied. Deho nodded. "Prepare the fleet. Full military deployment." "Sir, we do not know this species. They're not Coalition members. Some counselors are questioning whether we should respond." Deho looked at the distress signal on his screen. He thought of Admiral Hyjin, who died buying time for others. He thought of Captain Sunji, who sacrificed herself to open a path. He thought of Sang Yoon, who flew into fire because it mattered. "They called for help," Deho said simply. "We answer, that is what we do. That is what makes us human."